All right, so in today's video, I want to talk about the S1R2 and why it's an excellent camera all the way around, but I was able to use it on a wedding that I shot this weekend. And long story short, it just performed flawlessly. And I'm going to tell you all the good things about the camera, everything that it did, and one thing that it didn't perform so well on. So let's just jump right into the video. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, thank you so much for being here and checking out this video. If you're not new here, thank you for returning to check out this video. So today we're talking about the Lumix S1R2, which I've had for a little over a month now, and I haven't been able to do any photo sessions with it, but that's coming. A lot of people talk about how great it is for photo, but today I wanted to talk about it for video, and specifically for video for wedding filmmaking. I was able to use it this past weekend for a wedding. I will insert some of that footage here, but let me just tell you, the camera performed well. There was only one thing that happened, and I'll show you that footage as well, that I didn't care for, that it struggled with during the course of the day. But I just want to start off by talking about image quality. For some reason, the S1R2 just seems so much better with color fidelity, the way I can color grade this image over my S5 2X or my S9. Obviously, it's a new sensor that they're using in this camera, and that may be the reason and the main contributing factor to it, but it just feels different. It hits different. I have a buddy that has an S1R2 as well, and he feels the exact same way. So as you can see in this footage, some of the, clips from this wedding, it looks amazing. To me, it looks amazing. It's really easy to color grade. Image quality is just better, in my opinion. It's just better than any of the previous S model cameras. And I used a little bit of everything as far as footage goes. I used 8K, I used 6K open gate, 6K 60, 4K 120. So the image quality was great. And let me just address something before I go any further. No fluff, no BS whatsoever. The camera did not overheat once. I didn't even get a warning signal for the entire day. So take that as you may. I know a lot of people have been complaining and talking about the overheating issues when it comes to the Lumix S1R2, but I think it has to do a lot with how long you're shooting, in what frame rate you're shooting, and the type of cards that you're using. Just to give you a little tidbit of information, the ceremony for this wedding was about 47 minutes long. The camera ran this entire time. I had it in 6K open gate for a ceremony, 24 frames per second, and it didn't even overheat. It didn't even pop up a symbol. I took the card out because my friend keeps saying that his overheats after about 20 minutes or so. The card wasn't even hot, and the card that I'm using was the chip fancier cards, and I've talked about those before on the channel. I'll insert some b-roll of the particular card I'm talking about. It's a 4.0 type B card, and chip fancier is not a well-known name, but I've used these cards on multiple shoots, multiple occasions for different types of work. I've used it in this S1R2, which I'm actually recording on right now, and I've actually used it in my Blackmagic Pixie 6K. It's never had an issue. I've also have Angelbird 1 TB cards, and those never gave me an issue. So it really just depends on, I guess, for how long you're shooting and what type of cards that you're using. But back to image quality, the image quality is great. I mean, it's just so good. And I was using for the majority of the day for the camera that I was holding pretty much and floating with all day. I used the Sigma 28 to 45 lens, 1.8, at different focal lengths, obviously, of course. And I'm just really happy with the results. So, I think it's an excellent video camera. I haven't really tested it for photo yet. From what I've seen and what I've heard, it's great for photo. But let's talk about the next thing with this camera. So let's talk about autofocus. Long gone are the days of Lumix autofocus not being good anymore. People still talk about, oh, it's not as good as Sony, it's not as good as Canon. Well, maybe not, but you're not always going to have a 100% hit rate with autofocus. Lumix has come leaps and bounds from so far from what they used to be when it comes to autofocus. I would say it's a 95 to 96% hit rate, and it just works, especially in great lighting conditions. I never have to worry about the autofocus working or not. The eye autofocus, it tracks well, it stays on the subject, it's pretty sticky. Now, if you have a bunch of people in the crowd, I suggest you use, or people standing right next to each other, don't use eye autofocus, use full area AF, and that can kind of mitigate some of the focus hunting that it does when you have people standing next to each other in a gallery or in a crowd, or like if you're doing the ceremony and you have people lined up right next to each other and you're trying to focus on the couple and not the officiant, for instance. I would say use full area AF when it comes to that kind of stuff. But other than that, the tracking, the eye autofocus, when I was directing the camera towards a specific subject, it just worked fine. I had no issues with autofocus. So if anyone's thinking about, Lumix cameras in general, including the S9, S5 II, S5 IIX, and this S1R II, stop worrying about autofocus. Autofocus is totally fine. So the next thing I want to talk about is IBIS. As you can see here in this kind of sort of like running shot, I was not using a gimbal. I just had the IBIS set to standard because I didn't want to set it to high and have it crop in, and I didn't feel like I needed high. IBIS also in this camera just feels different than my S5 IIX or my S9. Why? I don't know. Maybe I need to deep dive into the specifications more if it has, more stops of IBIS in it. But overall, the IBIS was great. I don't feel like any of my footage was shaky enough that I had to add image stabilization in post. And the clip that you just seen with the running shot, I added no post stabilization whatsoever. That was just IBIS mode in standard. All right, so let's talk about CF Express Media, the Type B goodness. I'm using a 1 TB card. That's all the ones that I have. I have 2 Chip Fancier and 1 Angelbird Type B 1 TB cards. And the fact that you can just shoot to a card that has all of that storage and really don't have to worry about running out of storage, especially on a wedding day, is great. So essentially a freshly formatted 1 TB card. If I wanted to shoot 8K all day, which is insane, it said I had almost 8 hours of record time, which is awesome because even if you have an 8 hour wedding day, of course you're not shooting for every minute of, the day. So being able to have that much storage and not have to worry about changing your SD cards in and out is a great thing. And Type B cards are inexpensive in my opinion compared to Type A cards. You can get a Type B 2.0 card, 1 TB for around $199. Again, the chip fancier ones that I was using for this day is a Type 4, and the difference between a Type 2 and a Type 4 is not only read and write speeds, but sustainable speeds. What you'll typically find in Type 2 cards, it has like a maximum read write rating on the card. With Type B cards, they're typically meant for more, I don't know if this is the right word, endurance. I don't know. Just kind of like sustainability, if you will. So those cards, the Type 4 cards, are actually rated on the front cards of their actual sustainable speed because obviously your camera, read and write, input output is going to read and write to the card at different speeds. Well, sustained speeds, in my opinion, are better because that way that data rate is going to be able to be sustained no matter what frame rate that you're recording in. So look for that with Type 4B cards, something that's high. I would say at least 14 to 1500 megabits. Now, obviously, unless you're shooting in this camera ProRes RAW at the highest codec, which I think is like 1.19 gigabits per second, which for me and anyone else, it should be overkill. But you do have that ability in this camera to shoot ProRes RAW internally as long as you have that fast Type B 4.0 card. But what I'm getting at is that it's just great not to have to worry about switching SD cards in and out. Now let's talk about battery life. That's actually 1A. I have a 1B coming up when I was mentioning the one thing about the camera that wasn't so great. It runs through batteries like no one's business. I probably had to use, I would say, 6 batteries all day. And then I was basically taking, the battery off or at 2 at a time and putting in the charger and letting it charge inside of my car with a USB-C power delivery battery into the charger for the Lumix batteries. So that's kind of a downside to it, but I get it. If you're recording at 6K or 4K 120 or 8K, you're going to eat through some batteries. I mean, it's a video beast. So long gone are the days of, you just being able to record 4K 100 megabits per second and your battery lasting for 3 or 4 hours. And on top of that, 150 megabits per second is kind of like, so I don't know, 2019, it's really not that much data. So you're getting the benefit of having better frame rates, better recording modes, more data, so you can push and pull colors and just be able to recover shadows and recover highlights, on top of it having great dynamic range, which we'll get to in a minute. But you're going to run through battery life, just basically having all of that functionality within this camera. So battery life is not that great. I don't want to rig out a camera with a V mount for a wedding. It's just too cumbersome. It's too much. So I would recommend these batteries here, which are the Small Rig MPF 970 batteries, because they do have USB-C output delivery. So if you're using a monitor and you have like a little monitor set up with a cage, and then you like basically what you see in this B-roll here, you can put that battery on the back of your monitor, and not only does it power your monitor, but you can run a USB-C cable out from that battery into your camera, thus giving you more battery life than the internal battery will give you when you're just using it alone. So just keep that in mind. Batteries you will wear through during the course of a day with this S1R2. Now let's talk about dynamic range. Dynamic range is really, really good on this camera. I'm going to put some footage in here now and just basically show you what I'm able to recover as far as the shadows go, how far I'm able to pull down the highlights. In my opinion, the dynamic range on this camera is really, really solid. This camera has the same sensor as the DJI Ronin 4D 8K, and we all know how awesome that camera is. This camera, to me, is equally as awesome. Different tools for different jobs. Obviously, this one is more of a hybrid camera. That one's more of a filmmaking, doc style camera and stuff like that. But speaking of, I did make a short film with this camera, and that was my couple videos ago. So you may want to check that out. I'll put it in the corner here, talking about how I use this S1R2, and I used it for hours and hours on a V-mount setup, and it did not overheat. So that was the awesome thing as well. But dynamic range is really good. Now you have two modes on this camera: dynamic range expansion off and dynamic range expansion on. And please don't murder me in the comments if I get this wrong. I believe with dynamic range expansion on, your base ISO is 400 and 2000. With it off, I believe it's 400 and 1000. So that kind of, worried me a little bit as far as dynamic range goes, and also low light performance, because I'm used to having 640 and 4000 in my other Lumix cameras, and 2000 just seems really low. But as I'll show you here in a little bit with my low light basically performance and talking about that, 2000 wasn't horrible, but at times I did have to turn it up just to, bring up that image even with the 1.8 lens. So yeah, we've arrived now at low light performance. So during the basically reception, it's outside, it's dark. Only lighting that we had is just some string lights outside and the DJ lighting and stuff like that. So I was basically trying to just use it with dynamic range expansion on, set it to ISO 2000, 1.8 is what I was shooting at on the Sigma 28 to 45. And while it was okay, I was still getting at least two, if not a little bit over, stops underexposed. So I wanted to turn the camera up to 12,800 ISO just to see what that performance would be if I can at least get an even exposure, which I did using the 1.8 lens. And I also wanted to see how noisy the image would be once I got it back to post. So as you can see here, the noise that is in the image itself with no noise reduction applied, and then just use good old Resolve Ultra Noise Reduction, and that pretty much took away most of the noise that I was getting. So I think even at 12,800 ISO, this camera still performs well. I was able to get my exposure to where I needed to, at least at 0, even, and then just added a little bit of noise reduction, or a lot of it with ultra noise reduction, to take away the noise that was presented in the image by turning up past that base ISO of 2000 with dynamic range expansion on. So overall, I just wanted to talk about my thoughts, my experiences with this camera, shooting it for an all-day wedding, and it was just good. It was really good. Now, the only thing that I wanted to mention, which is 1B, is that autofocus at night with low underexposed images, as you can see, it was not doing good. I mean, it was just pulsating in and out, and that's kind of to be expected. Like, cameras are good at low light in certain situations, but you can't expect the camera to really see in the dark. Yeah, okay, Sony FX3, 12,800 ISO, you can see everything. I get it, but at this point, the S1R2 has surpassed Sony's FX3 in many ways, and Sony fanboys, don't beat me up. I know it's still a great camera, and that's pretty much all it has going for it at this point, because it doesn't have open gate, it doesn't have 8K, just got shutter angle. Yes, it's great in low light, but for me, that camera has kind of become a little antiquated when it comes to all of these new features and new spec cameras that are coming out on the market today. So that's the only thing it really struggled with. Battery life is just battery life, but low light ISO performance, it's not great. It's going to hunt as far as autofocusing goes, but it is what it is. I can deal with that. I can manage that. Because in that situation, let's just say we're in a dark area, we're not outside like completely dark or really lowly lit or dim, then that's on me to bring lights, right? So I can light up a dance floor or light up the reception area. So I wouldn't necessarily say that's the camera's fault. You can only expect cameras to do so much. They can't do everything, and basically they're just tools for us to use. We have to maximize those tools in order to get the desired results that we want. So that's about it today, guys, for this video. I just wanted to give you my thoughts, impressions on the S1R2. Full reviews coming up soon for both, just the overall use of the camera, photo and video. I like to take my time with stuff. I don't like to create a hype train, but so far so good. I'm thoroughly impressed with this camera. I just wanted to be able to use it with different scenarios. So now I've used it for a wedding, used it for a short film. I'm going to use it for some photo stuff. And then I'll be able to give my complete, thorough, and honest review on the camera once I have used it just a little bit more. So look out for that video. And if you want to see that video, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And if you liked this video and the insight that I gave you, and if it gave you any value, please consider hitting that thumbs up. Listen, I greatly appreciate you taking your time to watch this video. It supports the channel and it motivates me to keep doing content like this, to share my experiences and my insights, to hopefully allow you to make a more informed decision when purchasing your next new camera. So until next time, guys, be safe, be kind, and take care of each other.